Surprise! Hello! It's a day that I normally don't stream. Um, Happy 420. It's if you don't know what 420 is, look it up and then partake as the legalities of your region allow. My region does not allow, so I shall be refraining. But don't let me stop you. For Easter, still cleaning up. For Easter, I picked up some lamb shanks with the intent of maybe doing an Easter Day thing with them. And then I didn't. And then I kind of forgot about them. But I still have them, and they're expiring very quickly. So we're using them today so that this doesn't end up having gone to waste. They're going to take a while because we're braising them. So that means we have to get moving pretty quick. So I'm not going to beat around the bush at the beginning here. We can beat some bushes a little bit later. We're grabbing the Dutch oven. Fun thing about a braise is for the most part, it all goes in one pot. Let's pop over to the stove, show off the Dutch oven. Not literally all going to be in one pot because I'm not just going to have a chunk of meat on a plate. But the braise itself all goes in one pot, despite being a fairly complex thing. We pop back over here. I've got my herbs already out. I pre-cut some herbs. We've got thyme, sage, rosemary, and Cuban oregano that I'm going to be throwing in as later on, and some red potatoes because we're accompanying this with some mashed potatoes. It's a nice chilly, rainy, wet day. I was out having a good time in the chilly, rainy, wet day earlier, but it kind of leaves you with a chill. So having something like, oh, these lines are worse today than I think they usually are. Having something hearty and warm on a day like today, don't mind that sticker, is good. So it's a good day for it. I don't have a scissor for this. We're going to have to retrieve one from the other room. The right scissor. Retrieve one from the other room. Aha, yes. Got it. So lamb is usually expensive, and this stuff was pretty affordable, so I was happy to get it, but can't let it go to waste. Even affordable isn't free. It does have a hint of no, it smells fine. We're on the tail end of when I think it's usable, so I gave it a sniff test after I broke the seal, as you should always do with meat. And it's not super fresh smelling, but it doesn't smell off, so I'm gonna soldier ahead with it. We're also gonna cook it to death. Speaking of which, start heating my Dutch oven. We need the bottom of that to be hot and oiled. We can't afford to wait around a lot on this recipe. At least at this stage, because there's going to be a big waiting around later. That's unavoidable. Get these guys out of here. Oh, they've got little plastic cuffs on. That's strange. I wonder what that's supposed to be for. So these are Shanks. These are on the small side. Um, so this is the lower leg. Up this way would be the knee. Down this way is the ankle. Um, and I'm pretty sure that's hind leg. I'm not 100%. I love a braised lamb shank. Lamb is often quite expensive around here. It's not a very common meat item in the US, and thus it tends to be a little bit pricier. Uh, I grew up when I was a little kid. Um, my parents had lamb, so I grew up with it a little bit, but I was so young that I don't really remember it. Um, but we always had the barn and the lamb enclosure, although it was empty. It was lambless. Uh, so for step one for your braise is you want to brown off the meat that you're braising. Braises are great for these tough cuts, so this is a leg part, so it gets a lot of work, meaning it's tough but flavorful. Uh, so to counteract the toughness, you need a long, slow cook. But if you just boil it, you don't get any of that surface browning like you do with grilled meats and such. So when you're doing a braise, you start by browning the meat off in the vessel where the braise is happening to get the meat all browned up and such, but also to develop some fond in the pot. This camera dim? This camera seems a little bit dim. Let me tweak it. Better. We got no natural light today. It's rainy and overcast. There's been thunderstorms. At one point, it got like dark from the thunderstorms. Still raining. Um, so I gotta tweak my lights. Um, so yeah, braised lamb shanks. I'm going to serve them with potatoes. I've got some mashed potatoes here. Or not mashed potatoes. I got some red potatoes here that I'm going to mash. Because I think that's an excellent pairing. Um, And then the drippings, the braising liquid and the drippings of this can be turned into a nice gravy, and it makes for a nice plating as well. Um, and that's pretty much what we're going for, meat and potatoes. We could try to, we'll have time, so we can think about maybe throwing in a side vegetable. I do have some options. I have some asparagus that's kind of drying out, so that might be a good choice to use up before it goes completely dried up. I've got a breadfruit, but that's more starch. So I'm using potatoes, so probably not that. Um, we've got some options. Ooh, I've got broccoli. How are these beans? Ooh, okay. Well, not the beans. The beans are ooh. I didn't get to the beans. I didn't get to the beans. I'll put those there so I remember to pitch them later. Sad. It's exactly why I'm trying to use this today, so that doesn't end up how those beans have ended up, where I forgot about it too long and it wound up uh, getting pitched. The beans were like probably less than $1 for that many beans. Green beans are super, super cheap. This, not so much. This would be a real shame to lose. So, thus, why we're here. Oh, Oh, no, it's hot. It's just not an instant sizzle. Let's bring it over. Bring it on over. And two of them fit in there well. I should turn the heat up a little bit on that. So we want to brown the surface. We're not worried about cooking the interior. It's going to have plenty of time to cook the interior in the braise. So we don't have to worry about doneness at this stage. Just appearances. I'm going to wash my bloody board and bloody tongs. I suppose the tongs are going to get used again right away, so there's no reason to wash them, but I've already got soap on them, so I guess I'll finish washing them. The Dutch oven is a perfect tool for this because it's enameled cast iron. So it's got a nice non-stick surface, but all the thermal retention properties of cast iron. Plus it's high walls and a lid. So it can also be used as the braising vessel. If you didn't have a Dutch oven for this, I would be browning it in a normal pan and then transferring it probably into a... Oh, welcome in. You vote for broccoli. Broccoli is probably the best bet of what I've got left, since the beans are a little bit gnarly. Welcome in. I wasn't sure if anyone would catch the memo of the Surprise Thursday. Surprise Thursday! Happy 420! Let's see. We should, while that's starting to brown, we should do our aromatic vegetables. Since we're assembling the gravy around this as it cooks. So celery, carrot. Normally I don't get out the whole bags of these, but here we are. I do have a reference recipe I'm pulling up, but I also kind of know what I'm doing with the braised, so I'm not looking at it. I've just got it there in case I stumble across something. So let's grab a carrot. Let's grab one and a small carrot. So one big one and one small one. Since the recipe I'm looking at is 2 carrots for 6 large lamb shanks. Oh, well, okay. I don't know that anyone's going to eat that much. Cooking for an army. The sizzle, the pop, the sounds of cooking coming from the lamb shanks are already improving. So for this, your carrot doesn't need to be... The carrot's going to cook to death and probably not... Do we even serve the carrot? I guess we're doing it in kind of chunks, so that maybe the pieces will survive the braise. We'll see when we get that far. If the pieces are even recognizable, they might just turn to mush. Vegetables often turn to complete mush in a braise, in my experience. Imparting their flavor into the braising liquid, which is why then you use the braising liquid for your gravy, because it's got all the flavors of the meats and all the flavors of all, big old flavor bomb. The celery I know is going to just turn to mush. And we're going to actually take a big chunk off the bottom of that, because it's the wide part gets gnarly in my opinion. And it's a little bit dry at the top because somebody cut it below the leaves. But since celery is going to go to mush anyways, I'm not going to be so concerned about trying to keep them big. The carrot's the only piece that has a chance of still being recognizable bits at the end. let's go peek at the meat. Peek at the meat. Because we're just trying to brown the outsides. So oops. Looking good, looking good. Good start, good start. It can definitely stand a little bit longer. There's basically no chance of overcooking it at this stage on account of the... We're going to cook it. We're going to cook it like mad later. Let's get out the broccoli. I've got a broccoli right there. I'll get that out now since we've already selected broccoli. And an onion. I have a shallot. We could go with shallot. I also got some garlic. It's got putting garlic in this for sure. We're going to use all the remainder of that garlic. I need a scraps bowl. So, how's everyone's 420 going? Are you partaking in the festivities? Are you unaware of the festivities? Both valid options. I need a bowl to hold the good parts as well. Ooh, it's smelling very lamby. We're getting that that lamby smell. We're gonna go with a standard yellow onion instead of a shallot. I want a big one. And I don't have a giant shallot today. Oops, that's the wrong bowl. Those giant shallots were apparently a fluke and not a regular event at the grocery store, which I expected, but they were fun while they lasted. I have not partaken in the festivities of the day. I went out birding this morning. It was thunderstorms last night, and it was thunderstorms this afternoon, but in between, in the morning, there was a lull when everything was wet and windy. So I went out, and I found a good variety of waterfowl, many of them migrants that are just passing through, many of them that I often miss on an average year because I don't get out quite in the right time or place to spot them. I got a hot tip on a red-necked grebe, which aren't that rare, but they just pass through so quickly that I almost always just miss out on them. So there was a hot tip in my area for a red-necked grebe, and I went out looking for him, and I found him. Oh, well, you guys were watching the meat for me, I guess. Let's take a peek. Boy, this it browns pretty slowly. We're not gonna lie about that. Selena, you are first today. Shocker. Welcome in. Hello, hello, hello. Happy 420. How are the festivities on your end? Apparently it's also the last day of Ramadan. I didn't look at that. Oops, that was the wrong light switch. I think the last day of Ramadan's tomorrow. Let's leave that on. Braised pork. Mmm. It's a good braising day today. Come on. Get out your skins there, garlics. Take the little nubs off the bottoms. All my garlics are trying to sprout. They must know it's spring. So I got to use them up. Unfortunately for me, the reason for the season is still illegal in my state, so I will not be partaking. But if you are in a region that permits, please don't let me stop you. In fact, I encourage it. Braised pork. Tell me about the braised pork. What all goes into your braised pork? I would tell you what's going into my braised lamb, but you're about to see it. So, ow. That's got to go that way, and that's got to go that way. There we go. Those are just about ready to come out. We're getting that browning, that nice dark browning on the surface that we were looking for. Oop. I have good update. Sugar, soy sauce, 5 spice. Oh, we're going for the Asian style, Chinese style. Braised pork. That sounds lovely. That sounds lovely. Yeah, I actually didn't plan on doing a 420 thing. It just happened that when I was on Tuesday, noticed the lamb shanks still in there. Being like, oh crap, I got to use those up. I guess we're coming back on Thursday to use those up. So here we are on Thursday using those up. They're just about ready to come out of there. They're just going to go onto a side plate for holding. So let's get them out. Oops. Okay. Then we throw in our aromatic vegetables. It's not a mirepoix because they're big and chunky. But it's the same vegetables that go in a mirepoix. I need a pot holder. What was I saying? Oh, I have good news about our fancy tropical fruit, the meme sapote. It seems, to my eye, to be ripening well, and I am extremely optimistic that it will be ready to play with for Saturday. It doesn't look any different. I can hold it up and it'll look exactly like it did before. In fact, I'll do that now. There it is. It looks exactly the same. But it's soft when you squeeze it. Not like mushy soft, but it's got a give to it, as opposed to being rock hard like it was when I got it. So I think we are in good shape for that thing. We have an ad about to start. Let me reference my thing here. Oh, I'm supposed to add butter to the vegetables. Get buttered vegetables. Can't forget the butter. We almost forgot the butter. We also need some salt, I think, on the vegetables. I did not salt the meat prior to browning it because I figured I didn't want to add extra salt to this whole situation, but I do want to salt the vegetables a bit. And pepper. I've never made that kind of braised pork, that char siu style, but I've eaten it. And it's tasty. Okay. What's that noise? Is it storms? I think it's storms. The rain just suddenly picked up. Um, Butter, vegetables, cook until soft. Now I made mine real chunky, so they're gonna braise for ages, and I kind of want the carrots to be in recognizable pieces. So let's chuck the garlic in there now. I also minced the garlic up pretty coarsely. Let's chuck the garlic in now. Rinse off my hand. Ooh, that smells great. Garlic butter. Smells like garlic butter. Who knew? Who'd have thought? Whoever could have considered such a thing? I didn't mention, but I've already got the oven preheated to 350. Very tasty, super easy to make. I will have to give it a shot. I have eaten it, so I know generally what you're going for with it. Do I want to add mushrooms to this? Do I want to add mushrooms to this? Maybe. It might be too late. It might be too late to add mushrooms. I might have wanted to add the mushrooms before I added the rest of the vegetables to give them the best head start. I also need some wine for this. We're low on my typical cooking red, so I might have to dip into. We might have to dip into this Syrah, which I don't usually use for cooking. I actually usually go to the discount bin and pick whatever is a cheap dry over there. So this was a $5 bottle of wine, but it was because it was marked down to $5, not because it started out at $5. And it's been my cooking wine, but we've only got a dribble. We've only got a dribble left. But you need some red wine in this. The onions and the celery look soft. The carrots obviously aren't going to be soft at this stage on account of how chunky they are. Tomato. I'm not adding tomato. This recipe said add tomato. I'm not adding tomato. No tomato for me. I'm going to enhance it with our typical two powders blend of garlic powder and onion powder. I'm going to add some paprika. I like the paprika. I like where that's taking me. I like the where we're floating around. Now's the time to add spices because we're gonna add a bunch of liquid to this pretty soon. You know, some cinnamon would be good in there. I've added some dried mint. Do I have any pre-ground cinnamon? I've got some pre-ground allspice. Do I have any pre-ground cinnamon, or have I gotten myself down to just those sticks? Curry powder. Cinnamon. I'm adding some cinnamon. Not too much. Cinnamon's a pretty strong flavor. Likewise with allspice. I've got to use up some of these things that I've got that I hardly ever use, and this is a good chance for them because they're going to be in there so long that the fresh stuff would really get cooked out anyways. So mint, cinnamon, allspice. Well, I've definitely changed the profile of this with those spices. Broth and I've got broth. Here's the part where we're going to make it stop cooking all of a sudden because I've got refrigerated beef stock. I am uncertain of the quantity. It might actually end up being the entire, what's left of it here. Because the quantity of liquid is going to depend on the shanks. They have to rest in there just barely peeking out the surface. That's how you do this kind of braise. You don't want them totally drowned. But now this has to come back up to a simmer. Tomato sauce. Why would you add tomato sauce to this? That doesn't make sense to me. We don't need the wine yet. It's having me add, this recipe at least, I would add some wine now. I guess I'm not following the recipe. I would add some wine now. To sort of infuse the meat. What do you think? Add wine now or add wine at the end when we convert this braising liquid into a gravy? I want to get this up to a simmer before I do anything else with it. Actually, we should see if we can't nestle the shanks in there. It'll show us how much more liquid we need. Because they're going to be in there a while. Well, I'm barely following this recipe as it is. I just had it up as a reference. I do want the rest of that, which means I'm probably not going to add it now. We're going to do it later. We want this to come up to a simmer before I move on. I've said that 4 times now. But we do want to add the herbs. And I'm just going to add them big chunks. So my fresh rosemary, my fresh thyme, my fresh sage, and my fresh I'm not sure how many of these I want. Cuban oregano, which tastes a lot like regular oregano, but is easier to take care of in my herb garden, and thus I prefer it. I don't want the big stem here. In my experience, the stems of this guy kind of mushify. The stems of the rosemary and the thyme turn into just like sticks, and you can pull them out. The stems of the Cuban oregano don't hold up quite so well. And I don't want the stem in there when I'm done at the end. So there. So I'm taking all the leaves off and throwing the stem away. If you've never had Cuban oregano, or you've never grown it, I recommend it. It's a nice potted house plant. I know if you tie them together, they're easier to get out. And yes, fresh herbs from my own herb garden, which had a whole week outside this spring, but it's now living in my front window again. And my tarragon is sprouted. It's about that tall. So I'm gonna have tarragon coming up. I want to add mint to my repertoire. I'll probably plant some mint outside and let it just run. But yes, I am aware of the bouquet garni. In fact, the thing is, I'm going to be fishing all of it out and separating everything anyways, so I'm not real busted up about it. But I'm going to add a bay leaf. Bay. It you put it in there because it does something. Now I've heard other chefs joke that you put it in there because chefs tell you to do it, and it does probably something. But I think I can notice when is that one clean? That one's clean. My hands smell like herbs. I think I can notice the bay leaf when it's not there. I don't know that I notice it there, but I notice when it's not there. Yeah. And then this is going to live down there and braise. Gonna add a little bit more black pep now. I want it to just start bubbling before I put it in there. So I wanted to just start simmering before I lit it up and put it in there. It's going to be in there a while. You may notice I started earlier than my normal time today because I know this is going to take a while. And I'm not starting on any of the other things until this is in there. Also because we'll have plenty of time to work out all the rest of my things and to just chit chat. But yes, if you want easy removal of herbs from a thing like this, tying them in a little piece of butcher's string, tying them together in a little piece of butcher's string, creates a bouquet garni, which you then throw in, and you can fish it out in one piece. They also make these little mesh bags that you can put all your herbs into, and then throw it in a pot like this, and then you can just fish the bag out. That way you can put in loose herbs instead of all sprigs on sticks, like a tea bag, like just the outside of a tea bag that you can fill yourself with your herbs. It's a neat idea. Makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Think about the broccoli. Think about the potatoes. Think about broccoli and potatoes. Um, one of many waiting periods of today. I did a braise, and I didn't do it on camera. It was a 5-hour braise. It shouldn't have been a 5-hour braise, I think. I followed a recipe to the letter. And I checked on it at the earliest time the recipe told me to check on it, and it had completely boiled away its braising liquid and burned the meat. It was a tragedy. It seemed like the times and temperatures for that one were way off, incredibly far off. For it to have boiled away the braising liquid completely dry and burned everything in the pot. It was actually this pot. It's another thing with the Dutch oven here. It can survive some pretty harsh punishment. If I had done that with a steel pot, I think I would have run the risk of seriously damaging the pot. I've seen a steel pot that had its. I expect this one to be in the oven for about 2 hours. The oven's already hot. And our liquid's starting to move on its own. So we are just about getting to where I want. I'm just gonna turn the heat up on this. Did I cheat a bit and prepare it beforehand? The only thing I did before, actually no, I did that right when I hit the go live. So it was during my pre-prep, during my pre-prep when my sign was up. I had the oven preheating. Other than that, oh, now it's coming to a vigorous boil. That's too much, but it means I get to put it in there now. But no, we are doing this for real. We're doing this for realsies. I do not have one that I prepared beforehand on the side. I only have this one. And it's going in the oven. At 450. We will check on it later. We will check on that later. Yeah. So, a little bit of breath. Take a breath. That part's in, and it just has to sit and bruttle away while we work on other elements. I can relax. I can go real slow, and I can chit chat. So please, if you have any questions. Yeah, one of the concepts I had when I started this was because I watch a lot of cooking programming, and one thing they all do universally is skip anything that's time consuming. But if you are actually following along the recipe, you can't skip it. And you might not know. Sometimes they don't even tell you how long it's going to be in there. You might not know the changes you're looking for. So way back when I first came up with this idea, it was like, well, I'll call it real-time cooking. And you can follow along in real time and not have to pause the video or anything like that. Now, I haven't stuck with that. I've turned this into more of entertaining fun times. That potato doesn't look very good. where mostly it's me having fun in the kitchen. We're using up all these potatoes as well. It's a lot of potatoes, but they're small. Except for this one. This one doesn't look good to me. It's got like discolored spots on this side. Let's cut into it. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's green. Ooh, that one's gone green. Let's talk about that. We'll talk about that in a sec. The rest of them are fine. This one. I don't know if the camera can quite pick it up. Maybe this camera can pick it up without blowing it out. No, it doesn't quite. It's got a green ring all around the outside, which is a sign that it's spoiling. Because, of course, potatoes, if you let them sit long enough, start to develop eyes, and then from those they develop these little shoots. Because the potato is going to try to grow a new potato plant. The green parts of a potato plant, all the stems and all the leaves, are not extremely poisonous, but a bit poisonous. And you can get quite sick eating them. If you cut into a potato and it's green on the inside, don't eat that potato. Because it started to try to sprout, and it started to develop those toxins. Again, not going to kill you. And frankly, probably won't even make you sick at that point. There's so little in there. But beware. I'm going to leave the skins on. We're going to make these into a mash, but I'm going to leave the skins on so we can have little pieces of red skin. Red skin mashed potatoes. The potato skins have a lot of the nutrients in the potato. The white part inside, or the starchy part inside, is just starch. So if you want to pretend that your potatoes are healthy, try to eat the skins, which is usually only workable for potatoes like this or Yukon Golds that have pretty thin skins. Russets have those big gnarly skins on them, which you can eat. They are edible, but they're harder to make palatable. I find that I have to really fry the heck out of them to make the... Ugh. Okay, well, scrap ball that piece. I've taken pride in the past of my clean kitchen floor where I can drop something and then pick it up and not worry about it. I've lapsed a little bit, and there's dust on the corners, and that potato fell in some dust in the corners. We're gonna need to do some spring cleaning, I guess. So yeah, if you, and I don't think my camera is quite picking it up, but there's a green ring all the way around the outside of the potato. And if you see that inside your potato, don't eat that potato. In fact, if you're ready to plant a garden, plant that potato, because that potato has already started the process at that stage. Don't necessarily throw it out if you've got a place to put it, because it'll turn into more potatoes. Sad about those beans. Oh well. Oh well. Sometimes you miss out. I've got quite a few vegetables in there actually right now that I need to be sure to use. I've got a skinny eggplant. I've got some not baby bok choy, the big bok choy. I picked up a breadfruit, because breadfruit's coming back in the season. They're real small, but it looks like they're coming back. So we must be getting back toward the growing season for them, which I'm happy for because I love those things. Yes, potatoes. Potatoes are a survival crop because they're extremely nutritious and also very easy to grow. Because all you need to do to get more potatoes is to cut up a potato and have the little eyes will sprout new potatoes. You can also get potato from seed, but that's much more involved. Um, Cold water. So I've never run a test on this, but I've been told it by internet chefs. So I kind of just do it. You're supposed to, when boiling vegetables, if it grows above ground, boil your water and then throw the vegetable in. If it grows below ground, throw the vegetable in and then boil your water. So, big pot of cold water. Big pot of cold water. In go the potatoes. And then turn on the heat. But yeah, never ending potatoes. If you've got a plot of land to work with, you can have never ending potatoes. I someday would love to have a plot where I can grow potatoes and a root cellar where I can keep the potatoes and other vegetables. I already grow quite a few herbs just in pots. Um, it's spring, and if I could find a relatively affordable option for a planter bed, I've got a spot where I would love to put one in before the grass gets too vigorous around it. Um, and I intend to stick some of my herbs in the ground just in the corner of the property this year. Um, Sage and sage should do just fine outside, even in my climate. Um, Thyme dies back, but one of my friends planted thyme outside, and he says it comes back from the root every year. It's just the top part that dies back. And mint, which will take over the world if you ever let your guard down. Why should I get a glass of water? I have a glass, but it's not filled with water. Actually, scratch that. I have a glass, and it's pre-filled with water. Excellent. Excellent. Uh, so, yeah. Oh, my. So my neighbor. We've talked about my neighbor before, the one who grills. His previous girlfriend planted a bunch of weird stuff. Like she was growing herbs and vegetables in their little tiny plot, mostly in buckets. Um, One of those things escaped into the alley, red shiso, and it keeps getting mowed down. And it was less of it last year than the year prior, and it was all much smaller. So I think it's getting gradually mowed to death. I'm hoping some more will spring up so I can retrieve it. I dug a couple of the little ones up last year, toward the end of the summer, and put them in a pot, and they went to seed. Um, and I saved the seeds, and I've planted the seeds, and there's one sprout that has come up in the egg carton where I've got them planted. So I'm hoping that's a good sign. I do have one sprout. For a while I had no signs of life, and I was worried that they might not have pulled through. But I've got a sprout now. I think they would do really well if I could get them planted in a place that isn't getting mowed. That's what's getting them. They're not getting big enough to really set in. The plants themselves don't pull through the winter, but they come back from seed really well by the looks of things in the alley. Because they were just growing like on the edge of the driving area, just like mint. But they seem a little bit less hardy than mint overall. Because although I've never mowed mint, maybe mint also doesn't. They're related to mint. Red shiso is related to mint and to basil. Also this year, I would like to dig up some of the burdock. We had an outbreak of burdock, and I had to wait. I waited for it all to go to seed to confirm that it was what I thought it was, and it did go to seed, and I confirmed that it is in fact burdock. Because when they're just leafy, they look very much like a couple other plants. But they develop those very distinctive those little brown. They look like a brown cotton ball, but it's all these little hooked. It's a burr with little hooks on it. It sticks to everything. You can eat that plant, but you can't eat the top part of the plant. You eat the root. Well, I think you can eat the top part, but it's very, very bitter. I actually cut one of the flower stalks and gave it a try, and it's very bitter. But you're supposed to be able to eat the roots, and we had a big outbreak of it. It took over one corner of the lot across the alley. So there's a whole bunch of it back there, and it all went to seed in masses. So I'm keeping an eye now for them to for it to come back, and I'll try to dig up some of them because I learned late last year that I love pickled burdock. I got pickled burdock at a sushi place as a garnish on the plate, and I just loved it. Now of course I have to figure out how they pickled it. You can probably make a bunch of stuff. I know it's a more common ingredient in East Asian cuisines. Um, when I Google it, it says it's real good for you. Eat it for your liver. Regulate your hormones. But also eat it as a vegetable. It's a starchy. Near as I can tell from my research, wild burdock and cultivated burdock are literally the same plant. It's just the people are planting it on purpose. Um, and they're like they got these. The leaves look like rhubarb. They're these really big leaves with a sort of ruffled edge. But they don't turn colors like rhubarb. They don't have any of the reds on them. It's just solid green. They don't taste like rhubarb. And having tried them, they're very, very bitter. The flower stalk, if you cut the flower stalk, you're supposed to be able to use it similar to a celery. It's very fibrous like a celery, but it's also, that was what I cut, and it was still quite bitter. So I'm not sure how to use that. It's supposed to be edible, but it doesn't taste very good. We have an ad in progress. So I'm not sure about that. The roots are where it's supposed, from everything I've found, are where it's at. And I've heard of burdock root being used in Japanese cooking from various sources. So I'm gonna shoot for that, and I would love to work out how they pickled it, because it's not just pickled in vinegar. It's something special to it. But I loved it. It was so good. It was so good. Very, very crunchy. Because I guess burdock is very hard, like almost woody. Um, so you can't just eat it like a carrot. You got to do something with it, um, like pickling it to soften it up a bit. Um, but I thought it was great. I thought it was so good. Um, so that's going to be an experiment I do later on, after it's coming up. The plants are starting to peak up right now, but it's so early. If I dug anything up, they wouldn't. I don't think I'd find anything worthwhile. I also have to fight through all of last year's dried up burrs because the flower stalks are still there. Still mostly have burrs on them. Um, cut those back now before everything's huge so that I can find the plants without having to fight through the prickles. Um, but yeah, surprising. I'm surprised when I find a local native, actually, I don't know if they're native, a local just wild plant that's edible, because I don't think of that. But of course, there's local edible plants. Why wouldn't there be? Um, and I kind of want to learn foraging so I can use some of them. Like, know which ones to pick and which ones to not. I know you can eat dandelions, for example. Um, burdock. There's like a grapevine growing on my back steps. I think it might be a male grapevine because it didn't even try to flower last year. Or not that I saw. So I doubt I'm going to get fruit, but you can use the grape leaves for things. Um, although they're not cultivated grape leaves, so that might be a different kind of grape. I'm not sure if that'll work out. I'll have to do some reading on that. But yeah, there's a black walnut. I'm going to try to collect black walnuts as well. There's a black walnut tree somewhere on the block. I'm not sure where, but I always end up see those little green golf balls all over the place in the fall. So there's one nearby somewhere. Um, which would be fun for me. Our potatoes are coming up. Like I said, there's going to be long periods of kind of waiting around today on account of the braise. So, um, chit chat's the name of the game. Uh, what have I got coming up on the docket? Got to work out what to do with that meme sapote for Saturday morning. It's supposed to be just like custard soft. See, I've already thought of a sauce I want to do for the broccoli, and it's going to be a spicy miso. Because I think we've got enough heaviness going on in this meal already. So I want something that's going to pull the opposite direction. I know cheese sauce is a classic, but I've had a lot of heavy food this week in general, so probably should probably should ease back a little bit. Our potatoes are finally coming up to the boil. I just saw a dribble. I think I dripped some oil when I was transferring the meat. So I'm going to wipe that up now before it... Oop. You might not have seen that because it was behind the pot, but I flared my paper towel on the hot burner just now. Probably shouldn't have done that. Probably shouldn't have done that. That can stop being quite so vigorous. How long do you boil potatoes for mashed potatoes? I always forget. How long to boil potatoes? A bit. A, a decent amount of times. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. I got distracted. Rather, I distracted myself. But it does not change that I've lost my train of thought. Mame sapote. So I've been reading about the sapotes because there's three main ones that come up: the white sapote, the black sapote, and the mame sapote, and they are white, black, and orange, respectively. And the word sapote comes from the Nahuatl language and referred to any soft fruit that could be eaten raw. And having read about these things, I really want to try the other two. The meme sapote, from my own experience, tastes like amaretto and vanilla and custard cream, and it's bright orange. But the black one, people say, tastes like chocolate pudding on the inside and is the consistency of chocolate pudding on the inside, that you can just cut it open and eat it with a spoon. I've never seen one of those in real life. I imagine if it's that soft, they don't ship well. They probably just turn to paste if you try to ship them. So I am not super hopeful that I'll see one of those in real life, but I will keep my eyes peeled. But these tropical fruits, boy, they're quite the things. It makes me increasingly feel like the mainstream fruits that we've settled on as being fruits, like the standard fruits, we made the wrong choices. I think we may have made the easy choices instead of the super delicious, amazing choices. Sure, I like oranges, but I want me some chocolate pudding fruit. Uh, let's cut up this broccoli while I'm waiting for those potatoes. Again, we have lots of time. I keep saying that. I keep repeating that as though you guys didn't know. But it's true. Pop you over to me. Broccoli. Uh, so I like broccoli well enough. I do quite like the stem part. But you've got to cut it up a bit more than the florets. You can also, if you're growing your own broccoli, you can also eat the leaves. They are very much like kale leaves. You rarely see them, if ever, on store-bought. Magra D, welcome in. Yes, broccolini has those nice long stems. Hello. Um, I quite like the stems, and store-bought broccoli often is deficient in stem, and also never has the leaves. I've only think I found one with the leaves once, and they're good. They're a lot like kale, like cooking kale. If you cut the stems up smaller, they'll cook at roughly the same time that it takes to cook the florets, in my experience. If you want to leave them a little bit bigger, they should go in first. They take a bit longer to cook. That stuff's gonna. We can pre-prep that. But welcome in. How's your 420 going? Enjoying the festivities? Unaware of the festivities? Those are both valid options. Sesame oil. Just another day. Well, I'm glad to see you here today. It's not just another day when you're here with me. I have suggestions for what to have for dinner, but I don't know what ingredients you've got, so I guess my suggestions are tempered by that fact. Oh, you've been lurking. Well, lurkers are always appreciated. Lurkers are the backbone of most channels, and this one is no exception. We are glad to have you, and don't let me drag you out of the lurk, although I appreciate it. I love chit-chat with the folks. I'm going to need to loosen up this miso a little bit if I want it to form a sauce. I probably shouldn't have put the oil directly in here. Probably should have mixed it in a separate bowl. Let's get the slightly bigger one. The oil would have been a good yeah. The oil would have been a good medium to sort of liquefy. Probably have to use water now. Yes, there's the lurks. Whose lurk is that? Love Peak R. Love Peak. Unfamiliar. And of course mine. A little smush right at the bottom. Um, um, a little bit of vinegar. A little bit of vinegar. Because I want some liquids. We're kind of going for an Asian flair. So some seasoned rice vinegar, some sesame oil. We're going to use that as the liquids to loosen up this miso, because the miso, it started out life as shiro miso when I bought it, which is white miso. It's kind of landed itself in a red miso realm over the years. I don't use miso often enough, I think, which is a shame because it's super tasty. I should just start throwing miso experiments together. That'd be fun. Just figure out more ways to use miso. Because I know there's a million different things you can do with it. It's one of those ingredients that's just like endlessly versatile, and it keeps incredibly well. Granted, if you wanted white miso, I couldn't hook you up, even though that's what I bought because it has aged in my fridge. But that's the thing. It doesn't spoil. Near as I can tell, it doesn't spoil. It just keeps aging into darker forms of miso. So we're going to use tiny whisk here to break it up and form a miso slurry. Soft enough to toss the broccolis in. Everyone's lurking. I love that you can now use follower emotes anywhere on Twitch if you've subscribed to the channel where the follower emotes are. Because it means I can use my own follower emotes other places on Twitch, which means I can use the little smooshed, that little tiny smooshed lurk on other people's channels, and I love it. That little smooshed guy makes me happy. Because he's so little and smooshy. So we've got sesame oil, vinegar, miso, gochugaru. Yeah, little smooshed guy. He's great. Sesame oil, vinegar, miso, gochugaru. I'm going to add some laogan. I guess we don't need a ton of laogan. I'm going to add some laogan. Laogan is, of course, a brand. So the one I'm adding is the spicy chili crisp. If you've never had this stuff, good lord, is it delicious. It's much less spicy than it looks and sounds. It's just this wonderful, savory pepper flavor. Toss, 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 toss. Oop. Land directly on the floor. Grab a paper towel, clean up. Reconsider the tossing process. Solution. I have another bowl already dirty, so I'll just do this. And we should have well-coated broccolis. Perfect. We'll just get our extra out of the bowl. So in cooking, the vinegar should mostly cook away and leave just a little bit of a tang at the end. And we should have mostly the peppery, savory sauce. But I'm also going to let it sort of rest until we need it. How long have those potatoes been in? Probably doesn't matter. Probably longer than they need. We can fish one out. Bring it over here and give it a tester. They're not super red on the outside anymore. The red has leached out and they've gone to brown. Some of them look a little red still, so that's fine. I'll let this cool off just a little bit before I test it for doneness. Red potatoes are on the waxier end of potatoes compared to russets, so they are a little firmer at all times. But that's nice and tender. I think we have definitely gotten mashable. Now, do I want to say I don't want to prepare everything right away because we still have so much time left on the meat. Boy, if we're not careful, I'm just going to keep cooking things. If we're not careful, I'm just going to keep grabbing things and preparing them and grabbing them and preparing them. Um, Having a braise going might be a mistake. Let's think about. We've got a meat. We've got a starch. We're going to have a vegetable. We need a dessert. We need a dessert item. What are we planning out for a dessert item? Something that I can fuss with for a while to take up time. Video games. Have I been playing any games? I've been watching games. I want to play Dredge. I've been seeing a lot of people play Dredge, and I haven't picked it up myself, but it's been looking really good, and I want to give that one a go. Otherwise, oh, I have been playing a video game. Sorry, I completely blanked on it because it was consuming my life for a couple of days. I fired up Civ 5 one morning, being like, oh, I haven't played that in a while. And then all of a sudden it was 9 p.m. So that day was just down the drain. Yeah, Civ. I love it, but oof, does it suck? Does it suck up the time? Wowee. Yeah, average Civ experience. I'm gonna drain the potatoes so they don't get soggy, but I don't think I'm gonna mash them right away. So that's the most recent thing I was playing. I did look at when Loop Hero came out. I played it quite a bit, and then I, like everyone else, kind of faded out on it. But I guess there was a content update at some point between then and now that I was just oblivious to. So now I kind of want to go back and give it a go. Check out the new tiles, the new enemies, all the new stuff from the content update. Because that was a fun game, but it didn't have lasting power. Peek at the Lamb. It's only been in there for 45 minutes. I can give it a peek, but it's only been in there for 45 minutes. Let's see how it looks at 45 minutes. It looks hot. Our Dutch oven has turned colors from cherry red to more of a red delicious. It's looking a lot like a stew. The shanks have risen up a little bit in the pot. I will give it a poke. Yeah, it's certainly nowhere near. So lamb shank should be done. Braised lamb shank should be done when it just falls off the bone. Probably just barely short of when it falls off the bone, so that you can serve it on the bone without it completely disintegrating. But when you're eating it, it should just come away with no effort. Boop, boop. I doubt you can even see it. There's a little bit of an oil slick right there that I was trying to clean up when I flared the paper towel earlier. That I really want to clean up. It's looking great. The herbs are nice and fall aparty. The meat's looking quite good. Everything is looking perfect in there. It just needs more time. Quite a bit of it. Uh, I was thinking of desserts. What sweet items do I have that I could use as a basis for dessert? We've got sugars. We've got multiple kinds of sugars. For a while, I was making panna cotta experiments. We could try that again. Those were pretty tasty, and they took a little bit of time. Although, again, they had some waiting time in there because they had to rest up and set. Can I make a custard? How long does a custard dessert take? And don't think I'm making a creme brulee, because I don't have a good way to brulee it. Ooh, I don't have any raspberries. Flan. A lot of these custards want to go in the oven, so if they're at 350, we could potentially use the same oven. Flan. Yeah, exactly. We want to use the oven for a custard dessert, but if they bake at 350, the oven's already at 350, so we just need to look for one that is the temperature we've already got it set to, which this one is. Sugar, egg, sweetened condensed. Do I have sweetened condensed milk? I have evaporated milk. I haven't used sweetened condensed milk for things in a while. I might have run out in the meantime. I got one. Bam. Okay. Vanilla. I've got all the ingredients for this. I've got all the ingredients for this. Melt sugar to medium. Oh, sugar work. Sugar work. 9-inch round glass baking dish. I don't have that. How do you make single serve ramekin sized version of it? I've never made a flan. We might not want to do that today. It seems like something that could go wrong pretty easily, but it could also be amazing. Don't think this one has a water bath. If it has a water bath, I'm definitely not doing it. Nope, no water bath. Baking dish. No water bath for this one, but I do not have the container that they say for it, which means I have to go for a different recipe, which means I don't know how it would come out. Also, it makes like a whole cake. It makes like a whole flan cake, which is too much. People also ask, why is flan unhealthy? Oh, because it's entirely made out of fat and sugar. Oh yeah, that's why. Let's try something else. I wasn't planning a dessert, so I don't have anything in my head for this, and it's not as simple as grabbing a vegetable. We could try a mousse. We could try a mousse. An uncooked mousse. Chocolate mousse. Because I've got heavy whipping cream left from the Peeps. We've got eggs. I think we're making a mousse instead, because I don't have to bake that. Because you're right, the oven is in use. So we're putting back the canned milk items for later purpose. I will do a flan on its own someday. Let's make a dessert mousse. I just need to look up a recipe for proportions. Because I basically know what I'm doing. Do I have any whole chocolate? No, I don't. So we're not using a melted chocolate version. We're going to use a cocoa powder based version. I can do that. I've got vanilla, I've got eggs, I've got cream. Cooked. Didn't think you cooked chocolate mousse. I thought it was a meringue combined with a what's that called? It's called a creme diplomat. Creme diplomat. Sorry, I'm sure I've become the height of boring all of a sudden as I'm reading away. Um, Stabilized whipped cream folded into something. I hate these recipe pages. Oh, that's not at all what I thought. So that's not at all what I thought. I've made this before, haven't I? Eggs and... Ooh. Ooh, that's an idea. That's an idea. Let's... Coconut chocolate mousse. Ugh. No, we back out of that one immediately because it wanted me to use avocados. I don't have any avocados. I kind of understand, but give me an egg one. Egg. Mug cake. We could do a mug cake. We could do a mug cake. I'm just frustrated because I know this is a thing and I can't put my finger on it. And these recipe pages are so annoying. Half a cup of cream, 3 eggs, a little bit of butter, some castor sugar, and a bunch of melted chocolate. We don't have the melted chocolate. Hmm. Hmm. Um. Well, that ate up a good 10 minutes of me just humming and hawing and staring at a screen. Not even staring at this screen where you could see me, staring over here at this screen where you could barely see me in the corner. Perfect. Top quality content. That's what you come here for. Top quality content like that. I guess I just need to start. I guess I just need to do the thing. Um, Egg, cream. I've also got this carton of coconut milk, which is why I went ooh when the coconut one came up. So maybe we could try a coconut thing. Also the camera was pointed at an empty burner. Coconut milk in a carton. It's new, but it's the same thing. But it's just coconut milk in a carton, so it's reclosable. So we could try something with the coconut, the cream, eggs, cocoa powder, powdered sugar. Is there a stovetop custard dessert? Stovetop custard dessert. Stovetop custard. No reviews. Ingredient eggs. Sure. It's just a cooked custard. I don't know. I'm waffling around. I'm flailing madly. You can tell by the way I'm flailing madly. Desserts are always hard for me to come up with just on the fly. They're not my comfort zone in terms of cooking. And I know that they're much more fussy than most of the things I cook. So I'm not going to fuss. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the first thing. I'm going to do the very first thing I suggested. See if you can remember what that thing was before I outright tell you. I give you a hint. It's an ingredient from my spice rack. This one, in fact. In an unlabeled jar. This is agar powder. And I am going to make what's it called? The things. Not flan, the thing I said first. Panna cotta. Coconut. Panna cotta. We don't need the whipping cream. Coconut is slightly less unhealthy as well than doing this with heavy cream. So that's good for me. So we take a cup of coconut milk. I want all of it. Okay. A cup of coconut milk, to which I'm adding some sugar. They say panna cotta takes a long time to set, but if you make it with agar, in my experience, it sets very quickly. We'll get the heat going on it to start. This stuff is pretty thick, too. The coconut milk is pretty thick, too. So hopefully this works as I am envisioning it. It might not, because we need to boil it. And the coconut milk might be too thick to effectively boil. It's going to look like a pan of white for a while. But we'll throw in some sugar. Why am I having a flashback to having just... Oh, because I have the miso stored in the same way, where I've got rubber bands strapped around it. I was thinking, I just did this. What did I just do this with? And then it's... The directions say a teaspoon of agar for a cup of liquid. In my experience, that makes it too firm. So I actually go for half a teaspoon of agar agar for a cup of liquid, especially with a liquid as thick as this coconut milk. For a little while, I was doing all sorts of fun experiments with agar because I had been trying to do experiments with gelatin, but I don't like gelatin. I don't like the consistency of set gelatin. I much prefer the consistency of agar. I also find agar just so much easier to use. With gelatin, if you boil it, it breaks it down. With agar, you boil it to make it set. You can't actually overboil it. I'm sure eventually you could probably overboil it, but it doesn't have that touchiness to it. It also sets in the fridge after you've cooked it up so much faster. I'm adding some desiccated coconut flake to this, so we can have little bits of coconut in there and make a real coconutty dessert. So if you've never done things with anything with agar, give it a shot. I find mine in the Asian foods section, but they also have some in the like organics section, marketed as a gelatin alternative for vegan eaters. Since it is not made from animal parts, it's made from seaweed. It's made from red seaweed. I'm not sure the exact species. Which means you can make a vegan panna cotta if you also swap out the milk for something else. In this case, we've used coconut milk, which is vegan because it's made from coconuts. As the name suggests, don't know if you picked up on that. And then, while that's cooling, we can even make a sauce drizzle for it. Do I have any tropical fruits? I do. I'm not going to use the tropical fruit that I've got, though, because that's a special case. We've been talking about it for a time. I've got apricot. Apricot. We've got some Lyle's golden syrup up there as well, and some boysenberry. The boysenberry is pretty runny. So is the apricot. So is the strawberry. I want some fruity drizzle for it. We also need to get out the ramekins. I've got a cup of liquid. It's going to be slightly less than a cup of liquid when it's done. So volume of these 4 ounces. 2 ounces. Probably will fit in these guys, and I can make 3 of them pretty neatly. Coconut. So, as mentioned, you need agar powder needs to be boiled in order to set. So, if you're doing it with milk, with a dairy product, You really got to keep an eye on it because you know what milk does when it boils. It foams up very, very quickly. And you really, really don't want that to happen when you've got the agar in there because it foams up even faster, and then you lose some of the agar because it gets caught in the foam and carried off the top of the pot. This is coconut milk, which doesn't foam up as badly in my experience. It'll still do it, especially with the agar in there. I also did an experiment once where I did this with just water. I made a raindrop cake with agar and water in one of my mixing bowls, and then it's unflavored, and then you garnish it, and it was so interesting, very jiggly. It was super interesting, and I loved it. But I made it too big. I should have made a bunch of small ones. This is just going to be coconut on coconut at the minute. Which I suppose isn't a bad thing, but I really... What's the volume of this big one? Is that a cup? It does not say. That is that one. I feel like the makers of ramekins should always put a volume measure on the bottom, like this kind does. 4 ounces. Whereas this one just says made in China, which is not a volume measure. I'm not sure if you're aware. If it was a volume measure, it would be enormous because China is huge. Oh, it's boiling. Okay, look at how quickly it's rising and foaming. Temperature down. So it's not just bring it to a boil and it's done. You've got to boil it for like a little bit. Not too long, but a little bit. And the agar will try to stick to the bottom of the pot a little bit. As long as you've got liquid in there, it can be remobilized pretty easily. I think in this case, I've also got a little bit of the coconut flake trying to stick to the bottom of the pot. Okay, that's going to be enough boiling, so we can take the heat off. And I can return to thinking about the vessel I would like to serve this out of. Or rather, shape it in, because it serves by being inverted. I'm going to shape one big one instead of 3 small ones, using just a soup bowl, a round soup bowl. And then we have to bring it over there and pour with confidence, because you don't want this to run back along the bottom of the pot. You want it all to pour in nice and neat, because this stuff, the agar makes it kind of sticky, and if you spill it, it will try to set up on surfaces. So try not to spill it. Plunk that there, plunk that there. It smells like hot coconut. I want to pop these bubbles on the surface. Although the bubbles will end up at the bottom. When we turn it out, so it's not super duper important, but I definitely want the biggest ones to pop. They're already trying to set, because they set, the trouble with it is the top surface of the bubbles sets first, and they're very strong bubbles. Pop, pop, pop. I know how to get rid of the bubbles for sure. There's 100% surefire way to get rid of all the bubbles. But I don't have a vacuum chamber, so I can't do it that way. So I'm just popping the biggest bubbles, and then we're going to move this, and it's hot, into the refrigerator directly, and it should be set in time for me to turn it out at the end of the show, possibly even before the lamb comes out. And that will give me a chance to make a sauce for it. I have an idea, because it occurs to me I have another tropical fruit. This one. It's a little bit wrinkly, and it's overripe. So I think this is a good time to use it for a sauce. It's also got a spot on this side, so we have to use it today. Hopefully it looks good on the inside when I get in there. Little bit of discoloration. It's going to be discoloration on this side, of course, because of that spot. Come on. Come on. But we will just cut that away. It's only surface deep anyways. We're going to make a mango sauce with this, whatever variety of this mango is called. I've forgotten already. Somebody said it last time I had one of these. These beasties are overripe. Come on. You don't get a lot off of the sides where the seed is. But since I'm losing a little bit to that blemish, I want to make sure I get all of it. We're going to use a spoon to separate the flesh. We have an ad rolling. I didn't announce it coming up. I apologize, I wasn't paying attention. And overripe mango. Overripe mango is actually perfect for what I had in what I was trying to grasp for earlier. Because mangoes have a natural tartness to them, which will counteract the richness and sweetness of the coconut. Let's see how bad this blemish is. Probably more than skin deep, honestly. I'm probably going to lose some of the mango flesh on that side. No, Not too bad, honestly. The spots are quite a bit smaller on the inside of the mango than they were on the surface, so that's a good sign. I gotta taste this overripe mango. Oh, man. Scratch what I said about natural tartness. This guy is syrupy sweet on account of being so overripe. Mmm. Dang. Okay, I'm going to save some slices for serving. Those slices for serving. The rest of this I would like to turn into a puree. It's so soft. I think I can just throw it all directly in my little chopper, which I still have out from when I made the peas. I just have to get the motor part. This guy, he's back. And I think we just plunk all the bits and pieces in there. Mm. Wow, that mango is ridiculously sweet. Do I want to... yeah, I want to say the 5 slices. So I will put them in my hand. I want to scrape the board. That's why I'm trying to think about where to... Okay. 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 This is sure a departure from the rest of this meal. Lock it in. Lock it in. And get this guy out of the way before he gets messy. Check up on the interior of our little chopper dealy. Yeah, that looks like a mango puree. Mango coulis? I've heard that word before. I got to get it out of there and into another container. I told you, if I stand around, I'm just going to end up continuing to cook. Do I want to put it in there? Before I put it in there, do I want to put it in there? I don't think I want to put it in there. I think I want to put it in what do I want to put it in? I want it to be pourable, but I think I'm not going to use all of it. So, do I have a lid for that jar? I do not have a lid for this jar. So probably shouldn't use that jar. Our puree isn't perfectly smooth either. There's some chunks left in it that were underneath the blade height. I'm almost thinking I should just put all of the, should just do all the mango. Should we just do all the mango? It's not too late. It's not too late. I was going to do a little, how big is that thing? How big is that thing going to be? No, I'm going to save those 5 pieces for plating. Push that aside a little bit. This guy is going to be not only mango. I'm going to cut it with a little bit of a syrup. I'm going to taste test this apricot syrup because I think it's going to have a little bit of bite to it, hopefully. Yes, okay. The apricot syrup has a little bit of tang to it, which I was looking for in the mango. But this mango is so ripe that there wasn't any. So I'm adding a tablespoon of apricot to the mango. We need the tiny whisk for this, but the tiny whisk is dirty. It means we need to clean our tiny whisk. And then we return with tiny whisk and combine this. And the apricot syrup also has the benefit of thinning the mango goo out. Taste it. Yes, still predominantly mango. Still predominantly mango flavor, which is good. I didn't want to lose the mango. I kind of want it to be a little bit sharper. So I'm going to very carefully, with a scooper, add a 1/16 of a teaspoon straight citric acid. Whisk to combine. Whisk tinily but vigorously to combine. A little bit of citric acid goes a long way, so yes, yes. It wakes up the mango flavor with that tartness that you normally get in mangoes, but this one was so overripe that I wasn't getting that. I wish it was a little bit smoother. I wonder if I can. Oh, I really don't want to dirty a strainer at this point. I really would rather not dirty a strainer at this point to strain this smooth. But that's how I would how you should do it is force this now through a fine mesh in order to make sure that it's nice and perfectly smooth. But we're gonna skip that step because I can't be fussed. I can't be arsed to do such a thing. Let's see, that pan is done and needs water in it to prevent it from turning into a impossible to clean paste. Our potatoes are still lukewarm. They're going to go back in their pot. We might need to heat them up a little bit again, so in order to get them to mash or to combine properly. And so they're not cold when I serve them. Masher. I moved the masher. The masher is over here now. So potatoes are in their pot. Let's go to the potatoes. They should just mash easily. Yeah. And then once you've got them started, I suppose you don't have to wait till you've got them started. Lubricate them with a little milk. Okay, those are pretty good. They cooled off, so they're not as forgiving as they were when I started, and they were warm. I'm gonna give them a little bit of butter, and since it's not gonna melt, we're gonna have to put them over some heat to get it. We're gonna give them a little bit of butter. And then put them over here on a real low heat. This one. To get them warming and to get that butter melting. And we're going to get out a pan because I think we can start thinking about the broccoli. Maybe. It might be too early for the broccoli still. Let's put the rest of the butter away. Well, no. I think I need just a smidge more for the sauce at the end. Lid on that. That there. Let's organize my cleaning disaster over here a little bit so that it's not quite such a disaster since I've got a moment. Ingredient bowl. Warm water, mixing tools, tiny whisk, tongs, mango spoon. I can just use that to eat the mango with, or to eat the dessert with. So we can save that guy. Tasting fork for the potatoes. I'm going to use a larger fork when I eat. So this has agar paste on it, or agar goo on it. Yeah, okay. Gotta remember to clean up. I don't usually clean as I go on the show here. It leaves me a big crazy mess when I'm done. But as long as I've got a moment now to do it, I may as well get a head start on some of these things. Okay. Thanks to everybody who's sticking with me. I know this one's a bit of a slow and rambly one. Oh man, my bird feeders are jumping. I know this is a bit of a slow and rambly one on account of the braise and me filling space around it. But I hope at least you're mildly entertained. Or maybe you just are here to listen to the sound of my voice. On a Thursday. I'm glad people have turned out for a Thursday as well. I'm perhaps foolishly hesitant to try days other than my days that I always do it, thinking that, oh, nobody will show up. But here you are. Here you are. Let's see. It's too early for the broccoli, so I'm going to actually put that pan to the back. Put the front burner on real low so I can tend the mashed potato process up front. Ugh. They're getting a little sticky. I got to stop working them so much. They are red mashed potatoes as well, which naturally I think lend themselves to a little bit more of a stickiness. So let's add another splash of milk just to try to loosen them up. But what I need to do is stop fussing with them so much, or they'll turn into paste. I'll lose any semblance of fluffy mashed potatoes, and they'll just be paste. And we're warming them gently because I did let my potatoes cool off almost completely, so the butter didn't melt when I threw it in there. Probably should have done this part right away, and then they could have been whatever. Diverting and doing the dessert was a good idea. Speaking of which, let me examine. Starting to set. That's a good sign. We're coming up on the time for the braise as well. And that'll be exciting. That'll be a sudden flurry of activity while I deal with that. Oh, I feel as though I'm once again in a waiting phase. Yeah, warm. You'll see me. I've never addressed this. You'll see me hold the back of my hand over pans a lot. And I don't know why I don't use the front of my hand more, but I guess I'm not sure where I picked that up. But that's how I use to test for radiating heat off of the pans to see how they're warming up. And I guess I don't know why I do that. Probably something to do with in case something spits, it'll hit the back of my hand instead of the front of my hand. Like that problem we had on fried fish day when I splashed some boiling oil on the front of my left hand, which, by the way, never blistered. I got it in the. I guess I got it in the water quick enough that I never blistered off of that. So that was good. Um. Yeah. Yeah. Let's me actually wash some dishes since I am just now standing here. And I said I was going to catch up on some of these things. And what I did is I put them in here to soak. But let me actually wash a couple of them while I'm now literally just waiting. And I'm not making another thing because I've already made all the elements of a dinner. A main course, a vegetable, a starch, and a dessert. And I'm not going to go for a any kind of a starter. The broccoli will go very quickly when we get to it because you don't want to overcook broccoli. Overcooked broccoli is nasty. So once we get that far, the broccoli will be very rapid. Which is why I have not done it so far, because I want it to be put on the plate hot. And since it's fast, it would have gone stone cold and limp if I had done it any earlier. Boy, at this rate, I'm going to have my dishes mostly cleaned up right away before I even finish the show. That'll be a nice change of pace. How's everyone else? What are you having for dinner tonight? Or have you already had dinner? Perhaps you're in a time zone where it's breakfast. I'm having braised lamb shank with mashed potatoes, miso broccoli, and a coconut panna cotta with a mango coulis for dessert. At least those are the things I've planned. I know I look super far away, but I'm only 2 steps from the from you guys. I can see you. I see you. It's actually a good thing I'm doing some of the washing right now. If you let the pan that you cooked your agar in dry out, the agar just solidifies and becomes very, very difficult to scrape off. You end up having to put some hot water in there. Hot water loosens it up by re-softening it. But you end up essentially being required to do a soak on it to get it there at that point. I learned that from experience. Always want to clean your agar pan pretty much right away. We have an ad coming up. Alert, we have an ad coming up. Okay, that's probably just about good enough. I've cleared the sink except for the largest items. The strainer and a rack. This is making a little bit of a bubbling noise, so I will take it off of the heat and turn it completely off. And make sure it's not sticking. Yeah, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. Let me grab a lid. My lids have all migrated to the other room here because they were difficult to handle. A lid will help keep that from drying out and cooling off. What are we at? 34. So I've got about 10 minutes on the Shanks according to the recipe. I'm going to drop my spoon on the floor, requiring me to rinse it off. I'm going to check on the lamb shanks now. Oh, we have an ad starting. I will do it after the ad. When you come back from the ad, I will be checking on those lamb shanks. Otherwise, I'll just move things to the now emptied out sink. Should use my favorite fork. And we should not need any other utensils for this. A one fork should be all it requires. There's the ad. Yeah. Let's see, I'm gonna need a strainer. For the gravy. And a vessel for the gravy. Because we're not even done yet. There's a whole nother thing, the gravy, that I can't even start until I get the pot out of there. And we're back from the ad. As promised, we are checking the braise. How's it look? Ooh, our liquid has noticeably receded. Our meat is delicate, but not totally disintegrating. Our herbs look truly and well and truly cooked down. What do you think? What do you think? There's some bone there, so I gotta find a spot with less bone. Oh, if I avoid the bone, the fork just slides into it. If I avoid the bones, the fork just glides in there, which says to me we should probably take it out. I need a coverable container for it to rest in so that it doesn't dry out. I've got that. We're going to use this thing. We're going to use my casserole dish here because it has a lid. Move that lid there. Okay. 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 Moment of truth. Get these things out of here without destroying them. There should be, there is, a bone right there because it's receded from the bone. So now you can grab it by the bone. Drip away. Oop. Get the stuff off of it. Okay, those guys there, and we've selected this for the lid, which will keep them nice and steamy in their own steam. We could, honestly, we could probably turn the oven fully off and put this in there. With the door cracked open to help them stay warm. We need to get the juice out of here. The carrots, to my delight, have stayed in pretty nice chunks. So I think we can actually do what I wanted to do and salvage those and use them as part of our vegetable. But we want all the juice. It's big and it's red and it's screaming hot and it's got the juice. We're going to do this over the sink where nobody can see it because I'm afraid of spilling. But I've got, here, I'll just show you. I've got this pot with a mesh strainer in it, and we're going to pour that through into the pot to get all of that, the chunks out of there, so we can save this delicious juice. Spatula. Okay. Good enough. Good enough. Knock the liquid out of it. The pot I selected here is definitely too large for what I'm doing with it, but I picked it because I needed a wide opening to get to ensure I didn't spill it down the sink. Here comes our red wine, and then we bring this up to a hot, because we need to turn it into a gravy, and I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Let's simmer until thickened. During the thickening of the simmering of the thick, we're going to, first of all, move this out of the way because it's too hot to handle. Move that to the back burner. Keep that on the front burner. Keep this here. Okay. We're coming up. We're coming up to it. We're coming around. We're doing the thing. Judy, do the thing. Laugh if you got that reference, or don't laugh if you got it but didn't laugh at it. Adding a little bit of butter to our sauce. And now the remaining butter can go away. I don't need any more butter. This pan is in need of a smidgen of oil, but not too much. There's oil on the broccolis already. This is our broccolis pan. But I want it at least started with a little bit of oil. That's to a boil, so we're going to reduce it to a simmer. And then a little bit later on, I will be adding to it some cornstarch because I'm a filthy cheater. But let's get the broccoli started. I mentioned earlier about the stems, and then Magrady said about broccolini, and I thought in my head, oh, I have a thing to add to that, and then I didn't do that. I got distracted. I also like broccolini. It reminded me because we're back to the broccoli. I also like broccolini, but I don't like that it's more expensive than broccoli, at least where I am. So I don't typically get it. It seems like you're not getting your money's worth from it, in my experience. So we are currently vigorously simmering our braising liquid, which was already reduced from having been in the braise for so long, but it's filled with the flavors of all those herbs and spices and also the drippings from the meat. So we don't want to discard it. It's got all that beautiful flavor in there. We would like to save all that beautiful flavor to be our beautiful gravy. But I am going to hedge my bets and assume that it's not going to thicken quite enough just by itself. So I'm going to have cornstarch at the ready for a final thickening. The broccoli is sizzling, and I'm going to now, without stirring it around, put a lid on it to steam the top while the bottoms get... So they will steam along the top, but since they're not moving around, the parts where it's touching the pan will get brown and crispy. And this is one of my favorite ways to do broccoli because you get the tender steamed parts, plus you get these crispy edges. This flavor combo is something, I haven't done exactly this in the past, but it's similar to something I've done in the past. And I thought it would be a good counterbalance to some of the other flavors I've got going on here. While that's working and that's working, I'm going to fish the carrots out of the braising scrap because we cut them real big so that we could save them. Everything else is a bit too mushy, but that's fine. It can all go right into the compost. Because it's just stems and bits of vegetable that have been boiled to death. And a little bit of oil. Still hot to the touch. Oop. I'm glad the carrots held up. Picking them out like this is a little bit tedious. And they're hot. I'm just using my fingers because I am afraid of mashing them because they are very soft, very tender. They might, in fact, be flavorless when it comes down to it. Probably should taste one. They're still orange, so that's a good sign. They're not totally flavorless, but they don't taste like carrots anymore. Okay, let's scrape down my strainer so they don't drip everywhere. And now that's going to be the main culprit for hard to clean items. So we're going to get it some water on the go for it so that it doesn't harden up too badly. Go ahead and close the oven. I think we've vented enough of the heat out of it. Okay. Pardon me. Pardon me. There's our carrots. Let's check on our broccoli real quick, because we are reaching the point when it will start to be the wrong color. Broccoli looks good. Heat off. Let's see, carrots to the side. Gonna need that fork and that spoon. We don't need this knife. And we don't need this spatula. Set that to the side. I've got a plate out. Oh, the lines came back. Let's pop back over to the stove. I need to do the back of the spoon test with my gravy. So you put a spoon in there and you'll pick it up and you see what it does to the back of the spoon. And we're not thick enough yet. I've also tasted it. It tastes real nice. It needs that cornstarch shot at the end, I think, though, to really thicken it up. So we're going to do that. We're going to give it just a little bit of cornstarch to make it into more of a nice glossy sauce. But we don't need very much. We don't need very much. If you've never done this, this is a cheat, a hack. You take a little bit of cornstarch and you mix it with a little bit of cold water. Cold water, mind you. And then you stir it together until the cornstarch is all... It doesn't dissolve, it becomes suspended. Because if you let it sit long enough, it will separate out. Looks like this. And then you take that and you add it to your liquid. And then you stir. And it will cause your liquid to thicken up. If you add the cornstarch directly to your hot liquid, it will clump, and you will have little lumps instead of it distributing evenly and giving you a nice glossy liquid gravy. And that's how you cheat gravies. Let's get these potatoes on the plate. We're starting the plating process. We're starting plating. Mashed potato. I hope this gravy actually does thicken up a little bit more. I may not have added enough cornstarch. That's cool enough to handle, so I will handle it over here. That is getting moved. We are retrieving the lamb from the now only warm oven. Grab one of these fellas, perch it on the top. Grab our broccolis. They're going to go on this side. We're using the whole plate. Boy, it's a good thing I only had one meal today, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to eat this. There's too much. Our carrots from the braise are going on this side. So we're going to need to clean up the edges over here for our plating beauteousness. Our gravy is still not, it's thicker. I need to do a back of the spoon test with it. It's weakly coating the back of the spoon. Good mouthfeel, though. Mouthfeel. Let me clean up the plate a little bit. Oop, let me make a mess of the plate while I'm cleaning it up. Okay, good. Good enough, at least. And then we're gonna have to... I should use the mashed potato for this. Sorry, not the mashed potato. The spoon that I used for the mashed potatoes, I should use for this. And there you have it. That's my plated up thing. Clean up our edges a little bit. Ta-da! Ta-da! I think it looks good. Oh, we have an ad coming up, and I'm going to snooze this one. Actually, I'm going to run an ad right now while I go take photos of this, so that when I come back, we can play without the ad. For those of you who are not viewing an ad right now, I'm still here. I've had to concentrate to carry it there because I gravied the plate quite heavily, and the gravy is thin, a bit thin. I'll try it at a few different angles. I love the way it retracted from the bone and leaves the bone kind of sticking out. But I think the bone should be toward the back of the plating, with the meaty end facing the diner. Okay, okay. Okay. Coming back, returning, crossing, crossing. And our ad is over. Perfect. Here it is. It's a little dark. I wonder if I can futz with the... Better. So here we have it. Braised lamb shank with red skin mashed potatoes, carrot, and miso, spicy miso broccoli. Should we dig in? Shall we have a taste? I think we shall. I will start by tasting one of these carrots. The carrots, I tasted one when I was pulling them out of the thing. They're interesting. They're very, very, very soft. They almost don't resist your teeth at all. It's almost hard to pick them up with a fork because they kind of want to slide like that. They have a lingering sweetness, but none of that sort of carroty flavor to them. That's all been extracted. They really don't taste like carrots at all. They look nice on the plate. But that's not why we're here. We're here for the main event. Let's... Ooh, and it does just come apart. It does just kind of come apart with a fork, which is exactly what you want with the braise like this. Mm-hmm. Mmm. It's not going to be any huge revelation. It's not juicy. It's unctuous. It's got this wonderful, smooth, silky texture that sort of coats your mouth. It's so tender, you could see I could just break it easily with a fork. And likewise, you don't have to really chew. I'm trying not to shred it too badly. I mean, you have to chew it, but it just falls apart in your mouth. A long, slow braise like this also tamps down the gaminess of a lamb. Some people I know don't like their meats that have that gaminess to them. It's still there. It still tastes like lamb. But it's a little bit subdued from the long, slow cook. I was sitting here tending it, well, doing other things, waiting for it the whole time. But if you make it at home, you don't really need to stand around. A braise is... The 2 hours could have just been you doing something else while it sits and cooks away. But it's super worth it. So, even though this took me 3 hours, it wasn't 3 hours of work to make this. It was like half an hour of work and then an hour and a half of waiting around to make this. Let's try these potatoes with this gravy. Oh, the potatoes they're not restaurant quality potatoes. They're a little bit lumpy. And they've still got the skins in them. But they're very creamy and the parts that aren't lumpy are very, very, very smooth. Which you get from the red skin mashed potatoes because they're less starchy than a russet. The gravy, honestly, is not a super strong flavor. Mm. It's very good though. It's I think the beef stock that we used as the base liquid for our braise has pushed the lamb flavor out of the gravy. So the gravy tastes like a very sort of deep beef gravy. It's got all those elements of all those things we put in there: the sage, rosemary, thyme, oregano, garlic, vegetables. Mm, good stuff. And finally, potatoes did cool off a little bit. I had the timings all messed up, but that's what comes from doing this all by yourself in a one serving thing. Finally, we have our broccoli, and I will have a floret and a stem slice. Good crunch on the broccoli. You don't want your broccoli to lose that crunch, because that means it's gone soggy, and that's not good broccoli. The savory miso, the hint of peppery spice from the spicy chili crisps and the gochugaru, but not real strong. But it's the only thing on this plate that has any kind of piquancy to it. So I think it's a good to have there. This is a very savory plate, because those are also pretty savory. I actually think I could have put a little bit of sugar in the mix on those guys, but then they might have browned up too much. But that's fine, because we're going to have a sweet thing for our finisher, because we are not quite done yet. Yes, there is in fact one more thing, because I just can't not. I'm going to get out a whole nother plate for it. It should be set by now, but maybe not. Is it set? Looks pretty set. I'm not pouring coconut all over my beautiful lamb shank. That's the test. You have to hold it directly over your entree, and if it falls out and ruins your entree, then you know it's not set. You really can't see it on the camera there. My pastry knife has turmeric stains on it from the peeps. You want to pretty gently, so I'm using this plastic pastry knife, run around the edge so you don't gouge up your, oops, until it's loose like that. And then hopefully it loses its suction, and it did not. It did not. Come on. How have you reattached yourself? Come on. Okay, fine, whatever. We'll do it this way. And it lands on a plate like so. And then we are going to decorate the plate with our mango, I'm not sure what to call it, stuff. I want to call it a coulis, but I don't think it's actually that. And our slices of fresh mango, which I have 5 of, so we're going to make a 5 shape here. Ooh, and that really wants to slide around. Very smooth. So I'm going to go take a fast picture of this before they all slide away. They're already sliding away. Just walking over here has slid them away. Photo, 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 photo. Okay, they've already slid down. They're very slidey. The coconut flakes have kind of settled at the bottom of the bowl, so now they're at the top here. But that should be okay. Let's give this thing a taste. I've already tasted the this stuff, the mango goo, twice now. Let me taste the whole shebang. See, look at how it breaks. Oh, you can't see how it breaks. Look at how it breaks compared to how a Jello would, like a gelatin would. I like that. Mmm, 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 very tropical. So the mango goo and the slices of mango are very sweet, and then I added a little bit of tartness to them with some citric acid because it was so overripe that it was just pure sweetness. And then the middle part is it's so soft that you don't need to bite it. It just kind of mushes aside when you're in your mouth. But it's just tastes like straight coconut milk with little, and I added the coconut flake in there to give a little bit of texture to it because otherwise this the mango was so overripe that it's almost goo. We pureed part of it, and then the stuff itself is very soft. So it needs a textural counterpoint, um, something to ground it. Otherwise, it's just a plate of goo. Um, uh, I don't know that I would use that kind of coconut milk next time, or perhaps it's getting a little old. That could also be a thing. Um, I don't know. It probably want the freshest possible coconut milk for this because the agar is not going to mask the flavors at all. If there's any slight offness to it, then it's gonna. And I think that coconut milk is, it's not bad. It just is a little stale, I think, probably because I opened it and didn't use it all right away. Oh well. Um, yeah. So that's our show. Thanks for watching. Um, I've got a whole nother shank over here. I'm gonna have to. I don't want to spend too long because all this delicious food is gonna cool off. It's probably already. Still warm. So I want to get to it while it's still warm because it's very, very good, and I would rather eat it warm than cold. And also this can live in the fridge until I need it. So that guy can go live in the fridge until I'm ready for dessert, now that I've tasted him. But see, agar, it's set. It's set in a very good time. It was fully set all the way to the center in quite a large bowl. Gelatin never would have been set at that point. A big chunk of gelatin like that never would have been set by this time. But that was fun. Thanks for showing up on a Thursday. Happy 420, everyone. I'm not partaking because of reasons. But please, if it is legal to do so in your region, dive in. Don't let me stop you. In fact, I encourage it. So we are going to see who's live on a Thursday that I can send you all off to that I haven't. We're also later than I usually am, so we could send us off somewhere that we don't normally go, like Hekime. Oh my goodness. We're gonna go raid Heki. I love hanging out in Heki streams. She does cooking sometimes, as well. She does. Her thing seems to be baking, and she cooks things that I'm largely unfamiliar with. She's Swedish, and thus Swedish cuisine. I don't know much about Swedish cuisine. Maybe we should do an exploration of Swedish cuisine sometime. But let's all go say hi to Heki. We're going to tell her all about this beautiful thing I've created and the beautiful other thing that is waiting for me for dessert. She's playing, I mentioned early on when we were talking about games, the game Dredge that I would like to play. She is playing Dredge. So we can go check out this game that I think looks very good that I would like to play. So we're bringing it together. We're bringing it together. Yeah. So by all measures, it looks like that fruit is going to be ready for Saturday. So we will have some sort of exploration and figure out how to use it Saturday. And I will see you then. Thanks for hanging out. Great to have you. See you next time. The countdown has started. I will just stare you down.